2514, The Fight Number 17, from The Raven, Revenge, and the Reckoning by Jay Miller. I woke up before daylight, threw the blanket off, heard Cora shift in the hay trough where she'd bedded down. "Good morning, Ben," she said, cheery despite the hour. "Morning," I grunted. I got to my feet slow, stretching, twisting my back. I watched Cora step out of the hay trough. "How was that for a bed?" I asked. "Not any worse than that broke-down bed I have above the saloon." She smiled. "Come on," she whispered. "Let's sneak back to the kitchen. Get the coffee going. Maybe find some grub before the bar crowd wakes up." "Sure thing." I gave the gelding a flake of hay and a bucket of water, then followed her through the back alleys to the saloon. She had a key to the kitchen door. "Let us in quiet." Stove was still banked from last night, and within minutes, the fire was crackling and the coffee pot was hissing steady. The bar smelled old, wood, tobacco, spilled beer soaked into the floorboards. But with the firelight and the sunrise easing over the horizon, it was shaping up to be a fine morning. Cora pulled out a cast-iron pan and dropped in a slab of salt pork. The lard popped and hissed as she warmed up yesterday's biscuits. We didn't say much while we ate, just sat in the quiet like two friends who didn't have much to say. I guess that wasn't surprising. We really didn't know each other that well. We sat there like we was drifting through the same worn-out dream. As we sat over the empty plates, the saloon's quiet broken only by the stove's faint crackle, I stared at the coffee dregs, my mind dragging up old ghosts. Hap's sneer, the blood I'd spilled years back, the man I didn't want to be no more. Cora's eyes flicked to mine, like she could see the weight I carried. The sunrise bled through the window, painting the scarred table red, and for a minute I wondered if leaving this town could ever get rid of the stink. After a while, she looked up. "What's your plan today, Ben?" I chewed slow, swallowed. "Not sure, Cora. Starting to wonder why I came here at all. Doesn't seem like there's any good in dragging out old trouble with Hap, but if I stay, it's gonna happen." She leaned on the table. "Then don't stay. You said you wanted to leave. Help me get my gear and we'll ride out. You can take me to Dodge yourself." I looked at her, saw a sparkle in her eyes. "All right," I said. "Let's do it." We cleaned up the dishes together. I dried. She stacked them back in the cupboards like it was any other morning. But there was something kind of odd about it. We worked quiet, efficient, no wasted motion. "Well," Cora said, "I'm saying goodbye to 17 years of my life." "Are you gonna miss it?" I asked. "I doubt it," she said wryly. Upstairs above the saloon, she packed light, just enough to fill her saddlebags. I asked if she had a horse. She grinned. "If you could call him a horse. He's a skinny old crowbait I bought a few months ago. He's the only one I could find cheap, and I knew I was needing to get out of here." I chuckled. "He'll have to do." I carried her saddle. She brought the bags. We slipped out the side and headed for the paddock behind the stable. Sure enough, there was an old pinto gelding out back, ribs showing, tail swishing at flies like he was already annoyed. Maybe just because another day had broke. I set the saddle on the fence and walked over slow, slipped the halter over his nose, talked to him gentle. He didn't argue much, let him in, saddled him up, slacked the cinch up tight. I just stepped back to check the stirrups when I heard the voice. "Well, if it ain't Benjamin Burke." I turned. Hap Creedmoor was standing 10 feet away, grinning like he'd been waiting till this moment to spring out of the shadows. Winchester in one hand, Colt on his hip. "Thought you'd slip out of here without a goodbye?" "I wasn't slipping anywhere," I said, calm as I could. "Just figured I'd be on my way." "Oh, no, you don't," he said. "I got a score to settle." I looked him over. He hadn't changed much, still broad, thick, and looking mean as hell. I could tell he wanted a reason to kill me, but I wasn't sure I really wanted to kill him. I was trying to leave that part of my life behind. "What do you want, Hap?" He spat in the dirt, grinning. "I want to kill you." I spat on the ground. "Nothing new there, Hap," I replied. He didn't laugh, just shifted his weight, eyes narrowing. "I don't want to kill another man, Hap, not unless I have to." So Burke went soft, huh? I felt a rush of anger. I'd sworn I was done with blood feuds, done with men like Hap dragging me back to the man I used to be. But his grin was a dare, and some part of me still itched to answer. "Then let's fight," he snapped. "Just fists. You've been wanting to bust me in the mouth for years. Well, here's your chance. Let's finish it." I nodded once. All right, but don't come sniveling to me when you got all your teeth broke out. Then he looked past me at Cora. Where do you think you're going? I'm leaving, she said coolly. Heading to Dodge. Like hell you are. I'm not your slave, Hap. I stepped between them. Cora, ride. I'll catch up. I can wait. No, I said. If something happens, you'll be trapped here. Go on. Ride south to the Arkansas and follow it into Jetmore. If I don't catch up with you there tomorrow, you can keep riding on to Dodge. Leave a message at the boarding house in Jetmore, the first one you see. That is, if I don't catch up to you today. She stared at me, jaw tight, eyes fierce like she was memorizing my face in case this was goodbye. Her hands steady as she adjusted her hat. She gave the Pinto a sharp kick with her heel. Turning onto the dirt road, she rode south, out toward the open prairie. I watched for a minute, then turned back. Hap was leaning his rifle against a post, unbuckling his gun belt. This is going to be fun, Burke, he muttered, rolling his sleeves up. I'm going to teach you a lesson you won't forget. He turned to square up, but I was already moving. Closed the distance fast, caught him off guard. He jerked back. My right cross aimed for his jaw just grazed his shoulder. He stumbled back, cussing. Damn you, sucker punching me like that, he snarled. I grunted. Dirty fighter like you shouldn't complain about sucker punches. He swung wild, a clumsy hook I ducked easy, and I drove a shot into his gut. Felt the breath go out of him. But then he came up hard with an uppercut that cracked me under the chin. Stars burst behind my eyes. My legs went loose. I hit the dirt. He dove on top of me, fists flying. I took one to the ribs, another glanced off my cheek. I twisted, bucked hard, and brought both boots up into his belly, sent him flying back into the hay. I was on my feet in a second, jaw throbbing, blood in my mouth, thick with the taste of copper. He rushed in again, faster this time. He tried that old trick, 2 quick jabs to bait the block, then pull the second one up short, then the real punch, straight right hand for the chin. I'd seen him throw it a dozen times, stepped right, slipped it, and drove a hook into his ribs. He grunted, staggered, but caught his footing again. You still telegraph that stutter punch, I said, a little winded. You still talk too damn much? He growled. He came again, and I made a mistake. Tried to step away to my left. He saw and swung the right hook that caught my jaw. I heard it snap. The punch staggered me, but I recovered. We locked up close, fists, knees, elbows flying. He jammed his thumb into my eye. I bit his shoulder. We broke apart, gasping, both bleeding, rested just a second. Then Hap swung. I ducked. We clinched again. He elbowed me in the neck, and I shoved him into a post. He bounced off it like a bull, roaring. We hit the ground and rolled, dirt and dust billowing in the morning light. His hand clawed for my throat. I cracked him across the nose with my forearm. Blood splattered. Dust choked the air, stinging my eyes as we rolled. Hap's breath reeked of whiskey, and he was snarling in hate, his snarl showing several broken teeth. The ground was hard as iron, scraping my knuckles raw. I could hear shouting from the stables, more shouting from the direction of the saloon, their boots thumping closer, but it was just noise. My world was the crunch of bone and the thumping of fists. I could feel fire in my chest, pushing me to keep swinging. Then we broke again, circling, limping, barely upright. It went on like that. Trading blows, breath wheezing, fists thumping, then resting again. My left hand was shot. I couldn't close it. My jaw felt shattered. He was worse off, mouth a wreck, front teeth gone, face swelling by the minute. His right hand was badly swollen. We took a final pause, just for a breath, maybe 2. Then I came in hard. Right hook to the ribs, left hook to the gut. He doubled, and then I buried an uppercut straight into his chin. Hap's head snapped back. He went stiff, dropped like a sack of rocks, flat on his back, arms wide. He looked dead, but I was certain he wasn't. Just out cold. The yard was quiet except for my ragged breathing and the blood pounding in my ears. I stood there, swaying a little, could barely feel my legs. Then I heard the shout. What the hell's going on out here? Fred Kirk, one of Hap's boys, came running up from the livery. He took one look at the scene, me standing over Hap's crumpled body, fists bloodied, and his face twisted with rage. You killed him! No, I said, breathing hard. He ain't dead, but I reckon he wishes he was. Fred dropped to his knees, checked for a pulse. You're gonna hang for this. I didn't wait for the rest. I bolted. Ran for the stable, threw the saddle on my gelding in record time. I jerked the cinch tight, made one loop with the Latigo. That would have to do. I could hear Fred yell at the pulse. You're gonna hang for this. I didn't wait for the rest. I bolted. Ran for the stable, threw the saddle on my gelding in record time. I jerked the cinch tight, made one loop with the Latigo. That would have to do. I could hear Fred yelling, calling others, raising hell. Come quick, we got a murder. I hit the saddle. Clapped spurs to the gelding. He lunged forward, hooves pounding the hard ground. We tore out of that yard like all hell was after us. And as I cleared town into the open prairie, I said a short prayer, the first one since the church. Old man, if you're listening, make sure Cora gets to Dodge all right. Don't let Hap's boys catch up to her. That was all. I didn't ride south. They'd think I was going after Cora. They'd send men that way. If they caught her, they'd use her against me. No, I turned west, straight into open country. The prairie stretched endless, sagebrush and dirt, hooves thudding steady. Wind carried the scent of dust, and my ribs screamed with every jolt, blood crusting my lips. But the open sky promised freedom, if I could just keep moving. We covered mile after mile before the sun was even high. I didn't know where I was going at first, just that I had to keep going. My jaw throbbed like a devil's drumbeat. Every bounce in the saddle sent a stabbing jolt through my head. I tried to drink from my canteen. Couldn't even close my mouth right. Bones shifted when I swallowed, grinding, crunching. I spat blood and poured what little water I could between my teeth. Food was out of the question. I rode in silence, letting the gelding set the pace. He'd trot, then lope, then drop to a walk without command, like he knew the rhythm. Walk, trot, and then a lope. I tried to count, but lost track. By mid-afternoon, I veered north. I didn't trust many people. I'd been thinking about where I could go. I trusted Mara and Lottie. I knew they'd help me if I could make it there, if I could hang on that long. 3, maybe 4 days. That's what I figured. Every hour, the pain got worse. My left hand was useless, couldn't grip the reins with it. I held the reins in my right hand and dozed here and there as the grulla kept on point, heading north like a goose going to summer pastures. By nightfall, the prairie was cooling. The wind picked up from the west, brushing against the blood caked on my face. I found a dry wash, a few pools of water. I dragged myself out of the saddle like a cripple and lay down in the dirt, jaw locked in agony. I planned on trying to wash the blood off my face in one of the pools, but I just couldn't get myself to move. I was exhausted and in severe pain. I couldn't rest or think. Didn't dream. Didn't sleep much either. Just watched the stars and tried not to think about how bad I was hurting. By morning, I could barely move. My jaw felt like it was packed with broken glass. My ribs ached. My hand was useless. I drank a little water, had trouble saddling the gelding, but I got it done. I climbed back in the saddle, rode north through low hills and dry creek beds, didn't think, didn't look around, just kept my horse moving. That whole day passed in a haze, heat, wind, grit in my eyes. Every step the gelding took sent fresh pain up my spine, but I held on, just kept thinking 1 or 2 more days and I'd be there. By the 3rd morning, I was fading. I hadn't eaten in 3 days. Couldn't chew, couldn't swallow more than a mouthful of water at a time. My body was running on instinct, and even that was starting to slip. Every bone in my body ached. The pain in my jaw was a constant, stabbing throb. It wasn't just broken, it was wrong. Crooked. I could feel bone scraping when I shifted it, and my mouth wouldn't close right. Worry about infection was starting to whisper at the edge of my mind. That evening, just before dusk, I slid off to rest. Just for a minute, I told myself. Laid back against a rock with the reins wrapped once around my wrist. Next thing I knew, the sky was darker and cold. My head was swimming. The reins were loose. The grulla was gone. How long had I slept? Panic choked me, and something akin to fear clawed at my chest. That horse had carried me through hell. Losing him now felt like losing my legs and all the hope I had. I cursed under my breath, scanning the horizon for any sign of him. I stood up fast, too fast. Vision spun. I staggered, calling out with what little voice I had, but there was nothing. Just open land and the sound of wind. He was gone. And I was alone out here, on foot, somewhere close to a day's ride from Mara's ranch. I had gotten in a sight of trouble, but I only knew one thing to do: find his trail and start tracking him the best I could.